YouTube, what is up? Look at this. Finally, we got some cameras in the office. Yes, cameras, microphone, lights, and we'll work on the background later. Of course, I'm Adrian Hernandez. We'll be joined by momentarily one of the best in the business, whether you're reading his articles, his Dunker Spot podcast. I'm talking about Nekias Duncan of basketballnews.com, getting us ready for the WNBA finals, Las Vegas Aces versus the Connecticut Sun. Before we get into the interview, though, be sure to like and subscribe little by little. Getting more traction, getting more equipment, and upgrading is what we're trying to do every time we post a video. So like and subscribe and enjoy. Adrian Hernandez, Nekias Duncan, your WNBA Finals preview. Yeah, perfect. And just full discretion for everyone who's listening or watching. We're recording this Friday afternoon. This is releasing Saturday morning. And before we get into the Aces, and these finals in the Sun and everything, I kind of wanted to go big picture with some bigger questions about different teams in the league. So I'll start off with the Storm. I just want to get your opinion on Tina Charles. It kind of gave me DeAndre Ayton vibes with obviously that game 4. The Storm went with the small lineup. We heard that she was kind of upset that she wasn't on the court. And of course, to close out the end of the season press conferences, she's the only one that dipped out. So what's your take on that?
I get it from her perspective. Like, this is someone who's had a tremendous career. She had a not so clean release from the Phoenix Mercury earlier this season because the Mercury weren't going anywhere. Now, a lot of those circumstances were well out of the Mercury's control.
Yeah.
We still need Brittany Griner back. So, like, that just puts a damper on what Mercury wanted to accomplish this season. But Tina Charles is a vet, and she's like, hey, I don't have many years left. I want to compete for a chip. This team isn't getting it done for me. Let's go to Seattle. She goes to Seattle. She comes off the bench for a bit. She usurps Ezzy McMagor in the starting lineup. She plays well. And then you get into the postseason and you get into this Aces series, and suddenly the matchup gets a little bit tougher. I could definitely understand why she was upset about not being part of those closing lineups. Once the Aces went smaller, the Storm felt like they had to match that. And I think they felt more comfortable with Breanna Stewart at the 5, or even Breanna Stewart and Ezzy McMagor, who's a little bit more mobile defensively. I think they felt more comfortable going to that. And so I can understand, as a vet and as someone that's making a title push and sees your team on the brink of elimination, you're like, hey, I'm a competitor. I'm good. I'm talented. I want to be out there to help. And so I don't take that personally. I don't think anyone should take that personally. If there's anything I have the brow raised about, it's certainly not doing the exit interviews, because I want to know where she's at. Was this the year? Does she have another year that she's willing to give the W? Like, what were the talks like after the game 4? Like, I would like to know what the conversation was like, because post-game game 4, we got to talk to Sue Bird, obviously, Breanna Stewart, and Jewel Lloyd. We didn't get Tina Charles. We just haven't heard from Tina Charles, period. So I would like to know where she's at mentally, how she's feeling. Again, the contract divorce with Phoenix Mercury. She joins the Storm. Basically, it's a 1-year deal, so she's an unrestricted free agent this offseason. Want to know
what's in her head and what she's thinking. Yeah, no, exactly. And even before we get into the actual finals, I do want to get your take of, like, to me personally, watching this Storm and Aces series, and I was lucky enough to be able to cover the games here in Las Vegas. Like, that game 3 specifically, in this short 2020 era, right? To me, it's Dame Lillard going off in the bubble. And when Giannis, like the alley-oop and the Drew Holiday steal, and seeing Giannis like elevate and win the championship. And then this game 3 were like the 3 moments that stick to my head, that there were multiple times my ass got off the couch and was like, what am I watching? Like, to put it in perspective, that Storm and Vegas series, it's like the only thing that didn't happen is that it didn't go 5. But like, that series was phenomenal, correct?
Oh, yeah, that's one of the best playoff series I've seen. I hate that the series was as short as it was. I hate there was a second round series. Like, that felt like a finals matchup. Like, these are, again, Asia Wilson touched on it a little bit after the game, where it's like, yeah, the Storm were a 4 seed. This isn't a 4 seed caliber team.
Yeah.
Like, if Breanna Stewart doesn't miss games, if they don't get hit with COVID early in the year, like, we're probably talking about the Storm right there with the Sky and the Aces in that 26-10 range in terms of their record. So, like, they were very much overqualified to be a 4 seed. And we saw that. And that game 3 was insane. I was hosting a watch party. Me and my co-host of the Dunker Spot, Steve Jones Jr., we host those. And we were watching
UNLV Rebel, by the way.
There we go.
Vegas.
There you go. Let it be known. Let it be known. But we were watching that, and normally when we host a watch party, it's a nice mix of actual analysis and just nonsense when we're talking to
Of course,
some of our
yeah.
audience members. And we just got to a point in the fourth quarter where we weren't analyzing anything. It was just a whole bunch of what? What am I watching? Steve's falling back on his couch. I'm like at my office area trying to contain myself. I'm just like, this is insane. This is insane. We get the Asia shot. It's like, wait, that might have been a travel. And before we can even talk about that, Sue Bird hits the shot. And before we can talk about that, we get the Jackie Young thing. And then the overtime just gets the Aces just turn the sliders up. But what a game. What a game.
No, and it was great for the league. And obviously even the ratings reflect that. Even the season finale was record breaking for ABC. And no, I just wanted to make sure we talked about that, because that I will not forget that series for a very long time. With all that being said, though, the WNBA and their head offices, they wanted Chicago, Vegas in the finals, correct? They wanted that Candace Asia matchup, right?
I could definitely see the appeal of them having that. Like, Candace is a legend. And not that, again, Jonquel Jones just won MVP last season. Not that the Sun don't have star power, but just the story of Candace Parker in potentially her last season, the Chicago Sky pushing for back-to-back championships, be the first one since I think the 01-02 Los Angeles Sparks.
Yeah.
So the storylines kind of write themselves if you get that matchup. But I don't think the league is upset about this one either.
And so now this is especially where I need you here, Nekias, because my whole philosophy is kind of to be a sponge. And I know you got hella basketball knowledge. So for me and for some of our listeners who are heavily focused on the Aces, but maybe not the entire league and maybe not with the Connecticut Sun, as the Sun make it into the finals and they go into Chicago and they beat the defending champs like we talked about, what are the things that Vegas and Aces fans should be looking out for in this series?
I think if you're looking at it from the Connecticut side, the paint is where you're going to be focused in on. A point that I've made and kind of kept an eye on with the Aces all year long is that they've been the best offense in W by a wide margin. And they end up with the second highest offensive rating in WNBA history. But they did in WNBA history. The offense was amazing. Like Becky Hammond won Coach of the Year for a reason. But at any rate, the Aces offense was really good. They did so while ranking very low in the percentage of shots that they got at the rim. The Connecticut Sun are the exact opposite of that. They will absolutely maul you in the paint. Post-ups, mismatch hunting. They led the WNBA in offensive rebound rate by a very wide margin. Even if they miss shots, they clean up their own misses. And so I think the most important battleground of the series will be who can own the paint, who can win the paint battle. Can the Aces force misses and end possessions? And for the Sun, can you get enough offensive rebounds? Can you get some of the Aces front court players in foul trouble? How are the Aces going to match up? Do we see Kia Stokes remain in the starting lineup? Do they go back to their regular starting lineup with Asia Wilson and De'Erica Hamby? Can they keep those players off the glass? Because for the Sun, they don't have as much offensive firepower as the Aces do, but it might not matter because they may have 6, 7, 8, 9 more shot attempts because of the offensive rebounding. And so it's just going to be, I just want to see who gets that battleground, who's able to snatch that.
And even from that perspective, I think one of the things that was interesting to me is obviously halfway through the series with the Storm, Becky made the decision to go small, to have Asia out there with the guards. De'Erica's coming back and she played a little bit, and Kia Stokes at the end of the season, Becky made the switch to put her in the starting lineup. So I guess the first point when it comes to inside and in the paint with Asia, this was the thing that I was interested with her going up against Tina Charles is, even like the fatigue factor of how many minutes that she played in the last series and just overall in the season. And then the physicality that comes in guarding on defense and offense, dealing with them. And then also what you just hinted on is the foul trouble. Is that something to look out for? Is that a concern point for Vegas to be like, we need to make sure that she's good, doesn't get into foul trouble. And also even to extend on that, when I look at this playoff run, it's been the game ones versus Phoenix. They made it extremely muddy. It was an ugly game. Yep. Seattle did the same thing game one, where Asia struggled and she only had the 8 points and only less than 10 attempts or 10 attempts total. Should Aces fans be concerned about the muddiness that the Sun thrive in? Like that's how they play. They're like Bane. They were born in that.
There you go. You just hit on it. Yes, there should be a concern level, because while the Mercury, they had to bring it to the mud because they were missing so many players. The Storm, they found comfort in the mud. That's not where they want to be. They want to have a lot of flow. They have defense to kind of stifle teams, but ultimately they want to play with a little bit of pace. The Sun, this is just where they want to be. Like, there's been a little bit of a shift this season from last year with Alyssa Thomas in particular pushing a little bit more in transition and getting them into their offense a little bit earlier. But ultimately, they want to beat you up. They want to win a possession battle. They want to lock down the paint, make you force you into jumpers that you don't really want to take, control the possession, control the pace. This is where they want to be. And so for the Aces, it is going to be imperative. You always want to get out to a good start because why would you want to get out to a bad start? But against the Sun in particular, this is their style. This is where they are at home. And so for the Aces, it's going to be even more important to maintain your tempo in the half court, be able to end possessions and push in transition, because if the Aces are able to get flowing and now you have the Sun pulling the ball out of the net, their half court offense isn't great. Like, they had a lot of little blips throughout this season. So yeah, I would be a little bit concerned because slow start for the Aces allows the Sun get out in transition, and if the Sun make the Aces play in a half court game, the Aces have the shot making. Obviously, we've seen what Chelsea Gray's been doing all postseason.
We'll get to her next.
So like the Aces that's what's infuriating about defending the Aces, to where you can defend them well for the first 18 seconds of the clock, and then Chelsea Gray's just like, oh, that's a nice contest you got there. Here's another bucket. And so they can do that, but you don't want to live on that, if that makes sense. So it's going to be imperative to get off to a hot start, play with their tempo, kind of control the pace in that way.
And one of the surprising things too, I don't remember, I believe it was the game 3 where when the Aces went small, they still out-rebounded Seattle by like 15 and the points in the paint. So they've shown that they can do it even with the small lineup. And you just brought up Chelsea Gray's name. I am waiting, hopefully knock on wood, to ask Chelsea this question once they become champions. If they become champions, I'm knocking on wood again, so it's not jinxed. But two-part question. Number 1, is Chelsea Gray human? Number 2, are you concerned with the half-court offense where there's been blips and there's been moments, as talented as it is? And I know you've asked, and the pick and roll between Asia and Chelsea is some of the best in basketball in the world. But are you concerned about the times where the offense gets stagnant for the Aces and it's kind of like, Chelsea, save us, do that step back?
Okay, so one nice nod to the YouTube video is Chelsea Gray human. 1A, 1A, I don't know if she's human right now. Like, she is in the midst of, again, this is literally historic. Like, there's never been a postseason where players averaged more than 20 points per game with a true shooting percentage over like 70 across the NBA or the WNBA. Like,
she's a guard.
And she is exactly. She is a guard. She currently has the highest field goal percentage in a playoff run from a goal. Like, it's hard to overstate the madness that Chelsea Gray is giving us on the basketball court right now. And so I don't know if she's human. It's a wild experience. This is just a run of shot making that is wildly impressive to me. To the latter point, I am a little bit concerned that the Aces lean a little too heavily into, we got shot makers. Because again, they're in the finals. And they've had like little blips of the half court issues throughout the regular season. Mostly once we hit June and July, once they really start to slide. And that's
a 2-5 run. Yeah.
That's where it's like, okay, now the shots aren't falling. Now you're starting to see some of the process stuff. Because again, shot making is a great equalizer. You can have a bad offensive possession to make a shot and the points on the board. But you go through the film, it's like, why did you start that play call with 13 on the shot clock instead of 16? Why is this player spaced here and making it easier for the defense to help? And so there's just enough of that stuff to where that the Aces have to be cognizant of. And I know Becky Hammond and the crew is hammering all those notes since they've had the break. They've been off since Tuesday. And so they've had time to kind of look at, all right, here are the little things that we can't afford to do against this Connecticut Sun team. And I would imagine if they're practicing today, again, we're recording on a Friday, if they're practicing today, I imagine there's going to be even more attention to detail. Like, okay, now we know that the Sun is the matchup. We absolutely can't afford to have Kia Stokes and Asia Wilson on the same side of the floor if you're running the pick and roll with Asia, because the helper is Alyssa Thomas now. And Alyssa Thomas is one of the best defensive players on the planet. So we need to make sure we know where she is. We need to make sure that everyone's spaced correctly. We need to make sure that our tempo is right. If we're running a set, let's get it in early. So if it doesn't work, we can go to something else. And then if that doesn't work, then we lean into Chelsea save us, Asia save us, Kelsey save us, versus what we saw towards the end of game 3. and a little bit in the game 4 to where it's like, all right, we're late in the fourth quarter. Aces have a lead. Walk the ball up. There's 14 on the clock. Chelsea Gray calls for Asia. There's 9 on the clock. The Storm switch or whatever you want to do. And then it's, okay, wait. The clock's gone. Now something has to be thrown up. And again, Chelsea Gray is on a historic run. Kelsey Plum can make tough shots. Asia Wilson has made so many contested shots and ones is ridiculous this season. But that's not what you want to live on. You want that to be, okay, options A, B, and C didn't work. Now save us. Instead of option A didn't work, save us.
Or it's feeling like it is option A at times. And granted, I will say the two things that impressed me, number one, well, it kind of frustrated me. Jackie Young, I felt like the entire Storm series, her first step was the best on the floor. And then she didn't do nothing with it and was very hesitant. But on the defensive side, she picked it up. Kelsey Plum, too. She had some of those hero ball moments that she has, but she really got in the mud, and there was some key offensive rebounds, and she was finding her way into the paint. With all that being said, and the success that the Aces have had, All-Star Game MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, MVP, Coach of the Year, Most Improved Player, out of all of those awards with everyone on the team, which one sticks out to you and like means the most to you or is the most impressive?
I would say most impressive to me would probably be Asia's Defensive Player of the Year award. And like transparency, one, I didn't have an official vote. Like I don't have a ballot. Two, like in my
That's absurd. That's absurd. WNBA, NBA offices. That's absurd. Continue. Sorry.
I appreciate you. But two, on my fictitious ballot, I had Asia second. I had her behind Breonna Stewart very closely. But I did make the argument that I feel like there may not have been a more valuable defender than Asia. Because as much as we talk about what Becky Hammond brought to the table offensively from a scheme perspective, and it's stark, it's brought me great joy that the Aces embraced the 3-point line instead of being last in 3-point rate in like the last 3 or 4 seasons. So it's breaking news. Shooting 3-pointers with good shooters is a good thing for your offense. But at any rate, we're not having that podcast today. But as much as has been made about what the Aces have done offensively, defensively, they're doing so much compared to last year. Like this is a team that showed at the level of the screen. This is a team that trapped. This is a team that switched. This is a team that, early portion of the season, you can book it in 3-minute mark of the first quarter. Here comes the Aces zone. You can just book that in for the first 15 games of the season, and it worked. And so the Aces being able to toggle through so many schemes throughout the regular season, it's a testament to the work that Asia Wilson has done. Asia Wilson did not come into the league as an elite defender. And so for her, from where she was as a rookie to where she is now to where she is, one, just the vocal leader of this defense. I don't think that gets talked about enough. You can hear her on the broadcast while also listening to the broadcast. You can hear her barking out assignments, barking out play calls.
And you can feel it in the arena for whatever that's worth. Like it's noticeable on the court.
Yeah, like you can feel that. And so, again, you can point to the blocks. She led the W in blocks. She ranked just outside the top 10 in steals. But it's more than that. Like she had to go from the 4 to the 5. Learn those assignments, take on stronger assignments in the front court, call out what the other offense is doing and call out switches and things of that nature. And also toggle through, okay, we're in drop coverage now. No, we're going to play more aggressively now. Now we're going to switch. Oh, wait, Kelsey Plum has switched onto a big. Let me try to get her out of here. Let's execute an off-ball switch. Asia was tasked with doing all of that in her first year as a full-time 5. That is incredible to me.
Well, the minutes played too, by the way.
And the minutes played. And again, she's being tasked with doing all this, and also she's the most important player on the offense too. And like this, I think that's what kind of bugged me about some of the conversation with the awards. Like I saw a little bit of how is Asia the MVP? She didn't lead the team in scoring. Like one, Kelsey Plum is great. Kelsey Plum does not lead the team in scoring without Asia Wilson attracting some of the attention that she did. And also just taking pressure off of everyone defensively with how much she was asked to do. Like she had a ridiculous load on both ends of the floor. And so I just think that needs to be recognized more. Like Asia winning MVP, it's impressive, but also I'm not surprised that Asia won MVP. You go back to rookie year Asia or even 2020 MVP Asia. If you told me, hey, Asia's going to win a defensive player of the year one day, I'd be like, I don't know about that. Not that she's a bad defender, but I don't know if she's going to be there. Like I can see all defensive teams. I don't know if I can see defensive player of the year. And Asia, again, I had her second on my fictitious ballot. I don't think there was a big gap between her and Breonna Stewart this year. She's a very worthy defensive player of the year winner. And again, that that probably impressed me more than anything else.
Got you. And before we get your NBA 2K23 review, highly anticipated, for everyone here in Las Vegas tuned in for the preview show, what's the biggest key to you from a Las Vegas Aces perspective for them to finally win this championship?
Oh man, it's gonna be half court process for me.
Uh-oh. I'm nervous when you say that.
Like, I think that's just, we kind of hammered it home so far, but like I think that's gonna be it. They have to execute in the half court. Like, we can talk about if they're gonna start Kia Stokes, if we're gonna start Erica Hamby, how often we see the small, whatever lineup they have on the floor, they have to make sure they are spaced correctly around whatever they want to do with Asia Wilson or Chelsea Gray. They have to make sure their tempo is okay so they can get into what they want to get into. They have to make sure they're manipulating the matchups the way that they want to, because you don't want situations to where, especially against this Connecticut team that can load up on you. Again, Jonquel Jones, very good interior defender. Alyssa Thomas, one of the best defenders on the planet. DeWanna Bonner, even at this stage, just a lot of length that you have to deal with. And so space is going to be confined. And so they have to take advantage of whatever space they can create or that is available for them. They have to hammer home those details. Sometimes shots fall, sometimes they don't. But what I'm going to be keyed in for the Aces is, how are you producing the looks that you're getting?
The process.
Yeah, there you go. Are you running good things? Cool. If the shots fall, great. It's emblematic of the process that you're running. If not, that stinks. You need points to win, but at least we see you are doing good things. We can just attribute this to the ball didn't go into the hoop, or okay, the Sun are just really freaking good. I don't want the Aces to be the reason that the Aces lose this series, if they lose it.
With all that being said, look, I'm from Cleveland, born and raised, and I saw Twitter and everyone. It was kind of the general consensus that the Aces were going to win this easy. I don't believe that. I'm going to give you the early prediction, Nekias. Where do you see this series? How do you see this series playing out, rather?
I think my official prediction made it on the latest episode of the Dunker Spot, but my prediction is Aces in 4. I do not think it's going to be the Aces are winning every game by 17 points. I don't see that. The Sun are very good. The tweet is out there. I tweeted out during their series against the Sky. The Sun might be the best team that I've never believed in, because they have all this talent and they just haven't been able to put it together. There's like, wait, why isn't Jonquel touching the ball? Wait, why are the guards doing this? Wait, what's happening? There's been enough of that where I'm just like, I see that they had this high net rating. I see the defense is elite. I see the offense is elite. I know Kurt Miller's a great coach. They get in their own way too much for me to believe in them. And they have shut me up the last 2 games against the Chicago Sky. And they...
Well, I was sorry to cut you off. I was even going to say, what was it? The game 2 or game 3, the 76-72 Sky win, or where the Sky won, but the Sun missed all those shots in the paint. Like, to me, it seemed like they thoroughly outplayed Chicago throughout that series.
Mm-hmm. And it was just enough to where the Sky were able to grit it out. They have that leadership. They have that talent. Let's start there. But they also have the leadership and the poise to get through. And I'm just looking at the Sun like, you're missing layups. Like, sometimes that happens, but also like you're missing layups. But more than anything, you pan to the sideline or you pan to them after a dead ball and it's slumped shoulders and it's Jonquel upset. And it just looks like they don't even believe in themselves to a certain degree. And it's like, okay, I don't care about your talent if this is how you are, if this is the energy you're exuding.
Yeah.
But again, game 4, they punch Chicago in the mouth, and then they come into game 5 and they snatch that game in the fourth quarter. Last 4 minutes and 46 seconds of that game, the Sun outscored the Sky 18-0 on the road. And I'm just like, the talent has been there for the Connecticut Sun. The talent is not the question. It's, can they execute, going back to the process thing, can they do the right thing? Can they stay out of their own way? And can they also rally around each other? And the last 2 games have at least proved that point. They can rally around each other. And so, no, I do think the Aces are going to win this series. I do think they are the better team. I do not think this is going to be a breeze. Aces fans should not expect the breeze. If the Aces lose game 1, there should be no surprise. I do think, again, I will read it. I do think the Aces win this series. I do think the offense is going to be a little bit too much. I do think the Aces have some things they can counter with, particularly defensively, to kind of shut down the Suns' half-court offense and kind of get them into bad habits. So I do believe in them to that degree. Do not expect an easy series. Like, just don't set, as an Aces fan, do not set yourself up for that kind of disappointment.
Per usual, don't believe what you see and read on Twitter. Nekias, before we get you out of here, my friend, the floor is yours. I'm running an ISO play for you. Give me your very, very early. What is this? 12 hours, 15 hours in. Oh, like I said, we're recording this on Friday. I need your 15 hours in NBA 2K23 review.
Oh boy. So overall, I'm having some fun with it. What I do every time a 2K releases, I make myself upset within the first 15 minutes of the game because I go to the ratings.
You sound like a
And
Madden fan.
yeah, that too. But every year I go to the ratings, and what you'll learn, and for me anyway, like it's never about the overall rating. Like you could, like, a whole bunch of people debate, wait, Giannis 97, LeBron 96, or whatever the case would be. All right, no,
guys,
like
you
that.
sicko, the interior defense ratings.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm like. That's the overall rating doesn't matter. That's why I was like, I get why people are upset that Russ is a 78, but I'm just like, okay, I haven't seen all his ratings yet. But like, if Russ is still fast and has a really high driving layup and driving dunk and the passing ratings there, you're still going to be able to be Russ. Like, you're fixating on the 78 instead of you can do everything you want to do with Russell Westbrook. And so for me, it's always, okay, what are the individual ratings? That's what really matters to me. How are these players going to play? And so every year I check first 15 minutes because the servers are never on when the game originally releases. It's always, you gotta wait for the servers to jump back on the first 30 minutes. And so I was like, all right, let's look at the ratings. So I go to the W side and I see like Diana Taurasi has a higher perimeter defense rating than Gabby Williams. And I'm just like, okay. So we're just not even trying. That's what we're on. All right, bet. Go to the NBA side. The tweet is out there. It has like 2,000 likes now, which is obsessive to me, but fine, I'll take
humble brag. No, take it.
I'll take the engagement.
You're a big deal. You're a big deal, Nekias. Come on now.
I don't know about that. At any rate, and I'm just like, okay, why does Ja Morant and Herb Jones and Pascal Siakam and Donovan Mitchell and De'Aaron Fox and Dorian Finney, why do y'all have the same perimeter defense rating?
Okay, Herb Jones and Donovan, that's wild.
I made tweets like 8 players. They all have a 79 perimeter defense rating, and it's like 4 elite or just barely sub-elite defenders, and then LaMelo, Donovan Mitchell, Ja Morant, and I can't remember the fourth name right now. I'm just like, y'all have the same rating. Why? What is that? Makes no sense to me. I don't get it. Like, I understand that the ratings are derived from some sort of formula. I get it. If that's your starting point, dope. What I don't like, use that as your starting point and then review is all I'm asking for. Get the number that the computer spits out, and then, all right, should Ja Morant and Herb Jones have the same rating? Probably not. Let's drop Ja some. Let's rate Herb Jones some, and then you do that. I feel like what's being done, and again, this is very much opinion. I haven't talked to anyone. I don't know the exact nuts and bolts of it. I feel
Ronnie,
like
listen up.
I feel like what happens is just you get the formula, spits out the rating, and then that's just it. And that,
well, for 1 or 2 weeks, at least they do the updated rate. Like they're pretty on par with updating it quickly, right? Because I'm more of a Madden player. There's been a couple years since I've been grinding NBA heavy.
No, I got you. Like, they do a good job of updating in terms of like injuries and roster moves, stuff like that. Like, the overall ratings move up and down. Like, the individual ratings, I don't think see too much.
Oh, that's disappointing. Okay, yeah, tighten up, Ronnie. Gameplay though, wise.
Gameplay, I've had some fun with it. I've had some fun with it. It does feel like a slower game than years past. People are adjusting to the adrenaline boost of 3 bars underneath, so you can't just spam left, right, and just dribble 18 seconds going side to side like you could last year. Thank you for that. That's just not basketball.
Sounds infuriating.
Like, that's just not basketball. And like, what gets me about that, like, you will say that, and then it's like, oh man, you just mad because you can't stop. Like, no, like, I've played on good rec teams and pro-am teams and stuff like no, we win, but like, again, this isn't basketball. This isn't how it's played. This isn't a fun experience, not because we can't stop it. Like, the fact that we have to stop it is the problem, not whether we can or can't.
It's when it becomes its own game and the game's not basketball. You're just playing something else using basketball.
Yeah, it's animation simulator at a certain point. And it's like, no, that's not what we're spending. That's not what we want to spend the however much for the game. But anyway, gameplay is a little bit slower, feels a little bit heavier, but I do like it. The movement is good. They've revamped a lot of the jumpers and the signature animations for players. So I appreciate the attention to detail there. I haven't got, again, we're very early into this, so I haven't gotten to explore like the My Era stuff yet. I'm just starting the just starting my career story. Like I made my player and I played with some of my friends in the park once things dropped and the service got rolling, but I haven't gone through my career story yet. So I'm going through that. Like it's interesting. Actually was about to play my first game. I was like, oh snap, wait, it's 150. I got to get ready for the Zoom. Can't play yet.
I appreciate you.
No
Thank
problem.
you. See, I knew I was interrupting the 2K. I said it. I knew I was interrupting the 2K. So with all that being said, let's get out of here so you can get back to that. Look, I said at the beginning of the interview, I'm going to say it again. Thank you so much for joining us. For those of you that don't know, please follow Nekias on Twitter at Nekias NBA, Nekias NBA. Also, the Dunker Spot podcast is phenomenal. We will see you. I will get to meet you, and we'll see you here in Vegas. Thank you so much for the time, and continue making the best of content, Nekias. Sincerely.
Thank you for having me. Gonna have some fun with 2K, but you're fine. Again, like my apologies for us getting this together so late. I've just been busy and all over the place. Glad that we finally got to do this. Very excited to meet you in Vegas. I appreciate what you're doing. And just as a call for anyone that's in the basketball sphere, like if you have the bandwidth for it, cover the W, man. It's really good basketball. There are really great players. There are really great people in the league. It's just fun. The league is smaller, so the players are more accessible. You get to learn so much. That's my favorite part about covering the W. Like with the NBA, it's you and 40 other people in a scrum or in a Zoom trying
Always
to one of 5 questions. With the W, like I can just talk to Becky Hammond. I can just talk to Chelsea Gray. People seeing the clip, like I can just ask Kelsey Plum about her screening. Like you can talk to stars and head coaches and ask pretty much whatever, well, within reason. Like you're not going to get the game plan secrets per se, but at any rate, like it's so much more accessible and it's so fun. Like dig in if you love basketball.
No, straight up, but also sidebar, and this is way too, this is about me right now, okay? Before we close this out, I need some tips because I've been able to cover the team since the All-Star break. You know, I'm in the post-game conferences asking questions, this, that, and the third. Like, I need tips on how to ask. You know, I want to make sure that I come correct with the question. I'm not wasting time asking if someone wants to be in the position that they're down in the series. You know, I don't want to ask that. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that person.
Oh, man, I would say like, I end up making a thread about it. But one of the things that I tweeted was like, hey, if you're trying to get your questions together, like try to get your questions together before you get into the Zoom or in person. Like for me, I have the notes app up. And if it's an off day, if I know like these are the 2 players that are going to be available for practice or whatever the case may be, I'm just like, all right, bet, let me put this name here. What are the things that I want to know? And from there, I can just kind of type out what I want to know, how I want to ask it. And then if I am able to ask it, I can erase it. And if someone else asked the question before me, I can erase it, whatever. That helps me stay organized. That helps me limit the anxiety that I feel trying to ask questions, because I have a podcast. I'm doing this with you. Overall, like if I didn't have to speak ever again, I would be fine with that. I just don't like public speaking. Like I have to do it for my job and I feel like I'm getting better at it, but it's not my natural.
Yeah.
So anything that can help get me organized, that helps with that. And then with your questions themselves, like particularly when you're talking to coaches, try to avoid any question that can be answered with yes or no, unless it's an injury update. Like, hey, is the Eric Hampy playing? Like that's fine. But if you're trying to gather information about what they're doing or what they're seeing, you don't want to ask a question in a way that gives them the out to say yes or no, or give you a 1-word, 1-sentence answer. My biggest pet peeve in sports media, period, not even limited to basketball. Don't start your question with, hey coach, can you talk about hi Chelsea, hi Kelsey, hey Asia, talk about that. Like that's not a question, that is a prompt. And what I feel when I hear these questions, again, this isn't limited to basketball, this is sports in general. What I feel when people do this, it's talk about XYZ that I need to fill my game story about. And I find that they end up answering their question while trying to ask the question at the same time. Hey, coach, can you talk about how important it is for your defense to show up? Because when your defense shows up, it makes it easier for your offense. And for me, it's just like, 1, that's not a question. 2, what do you want the person to say beyond that? You literally just told them what to say.
Yeah.
And so you want to avoid those types of things. So open-ended questions.
All right.
That's gonna do it.
Thank you for the tips. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Nekias Duncan joining us. The WNBA Finals preview continues after this.